massive bag on the table, bam, everyone's getting wrecked. Waking up to a bottle of wine. Very quickly I became homeless. British people on the streets with Palestine flags every weekend.
As a Christian man, would you say that Christianity is under attack currently in the UK?
Islam is the religion that we can all see, we've experienced sadly, that are willing to murder, maim. October the 7th in Israel, the worst terror attack we've seen probably since September the 11th. The ideology is driving it. The jihadists, somewhere around 250,000 people. People that are willing to behead, to set people on fire, to blow up bombs in public areas. On the outside of them, Islamists. They are willing to go into countries like Britain, countries like America, exploit the democratic system to turn everything towards Islam and eventually Sharia law. They believe in the beheadings, the chopping off of the hands. If you leave the religion, you die. That's the Islamists. They want to control the population. If we are all controlled by digital ID, then the illegals are going to stop. How? Me, I don't care about party politics. I care about my country. I care about my children and the future of this nation.
Do you think King Charles is defending the faith? I want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors, Gold Seal. I use their products every single day, and now I finally get to work with them. I use their products for anti-inflammatory, reduced anxiety, better sleep, and mental clarity. I'm going to put a link to their website in the description, along with a 10% discount code for you to take advantage of. Go and have a look at their website, see if there's anything in there for you. I hope you enjoy this week's episode, and good health. Rikki.
Nice one, Liam.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.
2008.
Yes.
Homeless.
Yep.
Addicted to drink and drugs.
Yep.
Talk to me about how you slipped into addiction and then how you bounced back.
Well, I grew up in working class Middlesbrough. So our life as youths was just football, streets, more football. Got a bit older, then it gets into bottle of cider on the streets. Then it gets a little bit older, and you start dabbling in ganja, marijuana, whatever everyone wants to call it. Then I got late teens, went to uni, partied my way through uni, 4 years solid. My third year, I actually failed it because I partied that much, 7 days a week, student nights, 20 ecstasy tablets in one night. We would be doing like a massive bag on the table, bam, everyone's getting wrecked. Went into cocaine, harder drugs. Then I went backpacking for 4 years, Southeast Asia for a year, Australia, New Zealand, partied my way around the world. Got into music a little bit around that time, then got myself back to the UK after 4 years of being on the road. Got into UK I'll go to Manchester. Manchester's the place where all the music that I like comes from. Oasis, the Smiths. So I went to Manchester, started doing the music, and then quickly it kind of like deteriorated. I was doing the party lifestyle too much. So I was doing the music, but I was doing that rock and roll lifestyle. And it was like waking up to a bottle of wine, just smashing drugs all the time. Couldn't even get on stage and sing without being like off my face, basically. And there's videos somewhere hiding of them days. And very quickly I became homeless. So I used to have to kind of busk and get £12 in order to get into a backpacking hostel. If I didn't get the 12 quid, then I had to find somewhere to sleep. So I would go to pubs, bars with my guitar, kind of like play open mic nights, and people would enjoy the music and say, "Oh, why don't you come and sleep on our sofa?" So then I'd sleep on that sofa for a month. Then they'd kick me out, and then I'd be back on the street, and then boom. So it was like that for a while. It's a mental thing as well. Cut off my family, cut off friends, and you just kind of like you're just stuck in your own little thing. Like, no, I need to do this.
What is that, self-destruct mode?
100%. And I think it's very much attached to pride, where you just think, no, I've got to do it myself. I'm not interested in help. I mean, obviously the government has a lot of things that they can help with, but I never signed on the dole, never went for a council house. I was just like, I need to do it myself. And I think it is a self-destruct mode in a way.
Self-harm.
Self-harm as well, yeah, 100%. Because you're thinking that your solace is in the narcotics, your solace is in the alcohol. And I was doing like 20 cigarettes a day plus. And that used to be a comfort to me, smoking. I used to think that was a comfort. And one day I played music on the streets to try and get money. Like I said, if I didn't make it, I didn't make it. one day it was raining on me. Manchester rains all the time, if anyone's been to Manchester. And it was raining on me. St Anne's Square is my busking spot. The streets had emptied because of the rain. I'd made about £2.50. I was down. I was depressed. I thought, do I even need to be alive? Do I need to be on this earth? Like, what's the point? I wanted to get out the rain, and I remembered Manchester Cathedral was near the pub, which was the Oyster Bar, where I used to drink every day. So let me just try and go in the cathedral. At least the church is supposed to be somewhere peaceful. So if I go in there, I get out the rain, it'll be peaceful, I can relax. So I went in there, sat at the back of the cathedral, never been in there before, put my guitar down, and just sat and looked in the corner of the room like this, just thinking and pondering about life. And in my heart, don't know why, it just happened. In my heart, I just said, God, if you're real, then help me, because I'm stuck. And I just sat there. No lightning came out the sky, no burning bush appeared anywhere. But I just went on with my life. And it led me onto a path where I was studying American music, and I found in the roots of American music, gospel music, and an artist called Mahalia Jackson, and she's known as the queen of gospel music. And I used to be off my face at parties, like full of MDMA, MCAT, some of the worst things you can put in your body. And we'd get to 5 a.m. when people are crashing out. And you get on YouTube and you start playing each other's songs and different things on YouTube. And I used to always play this Mahalia Jackson song from the Johnny Cash show in the 1970s, singing Amazing Grace. And I'd always put that on in the parties, and it used to make me cry. And I'd be like, why am I crying? Like, I'm high. What is it in this music that's making me cry? Because all the music I knew was rock and roll, blues, country. It was entertainment, but this music wasn't entertaining me. It was moving me.
Pulling something out of you.
Pulling something and hitting me somewhere that I didn't even know could be hit. And so I wanted to discover that. And I went on a journey, went back to my hometown of Middlesbrough in the northeast of England, ended up reconnecting with my family, sleeping at the time at my granddad's house. And I thought, right, I need to find a gospel band. And I started playing gigs in the town, and it led to me being a music promoter. I just invited people, and then I ended up doing this night, and all of a sudden I had a bunch of live music nights in Middlesbrough that I was running, one in a nightclub, 3 weekly ones in different pubs. And I thought, right, I want to find a gospel band, bang them on in the nightclub, midnight, everyone's wrecked. I don't tell them. And then this thing that's making me cry, maybe it's going to touch them as well. So I looked everywhere, high and low, went into Methodist churches, went on the internet, couldn't find a gospel band anywhere. And then one day I'd had one of my events on a Friday, went back to this sesh house, like proper scruffy sesh house, like where people are just getting wrecked all day, all night.
Squat.
Dirty, dishes are up there, mould in the kitchen, but everyone's getting smashed in the front room, one of them. So I was in there doing MDMA all night and crashed out on the sofa about 6 a.m, woke up at 8 a.m, just like pinged up like this. Went in the bathroom, I looked like death, and I thought, I need to get out of here. Left the sesh house, went into the town centre by foot, and as I was going to get the bus on Linthorpe Road, which is one of the main roads in Middlesbrough town centre, I walked past the church and I heard worship music coming out of the church. And it hit me like that Mahalia Jackson music was hitting me. So I thought, this is it, man, I need to go in. So I stood at the front of the church, full of MDMA from the night before, scruffy, no shower, no brushing of teeth, and I thought, I can't go in there. Everyone's holy in churches. Everybody's white as a sheet with a halo around their heads. I can't go in there full of drugs. And I sat there for about 15 minutes listening to the worship music, and it was amazing. And I got the bravery. I finally went in, and there was a guy there, and I said to him, look, man, I'm a music promoter. Who are these guys? And he said, oh, it's the church praise and worship team. They're rehearsing for a wedding. Go and talk to them. And I went and talked to them. And when I went to talk to them, they met me with such like love. I'm from the nightclub life, do you know what I mean? So I'm used to that kind of scenario and environment where everyone's kind of trying to just get half an inch, whether it's a joke or pulling a girl or whatever it is. You're in the nightclub, you're doing that thing. So I'm from that world where when someone gives you a hug, it's like, yeah, you're all right. Like, I don't know, there's just not something deep there.
There's an underlying paranoia when you're part of the nightlife scene, isn't there?
Yeah.
You've always got to be
You're on
careful.
Edge. 100%. And you're on edge, you've got to be careful. Anything can go off at any time.
That's when the vampires come out to play at night.
Well, that's a good way to put it. And But what I felt when I met this worship team was like, whoa, okay, that was different. And I said to them, I've been looking for you. And they were all laughing like, oh, what's your name? Boom, 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 we're talking. Swapped numbers with the keyboard player, said, I'd love to put you on one of my events. And he said, oh, no problem, let's talk. And we talked on the phone. And I used to have an office above one of the pubs where I used to put my events on. So I invited him to the office. He came down and he said, look, the pastor doesn't want us to go in the nightclub. And I was like, oh, okay. And I said to him, so what are your Sunday services like? And he just had he just put on this massive smile and just said, you're going to love it. And I was like, all right, I'm coming on Sunday. So I went down on Sunday. I was so nervous, I smoked 40 cigarettes outside while I was waiting for him. I was there about an hour just going, boom, one cigarette, throw it away, one cigarette, throw it away. And he arrived, went into the church. I never seen nothing like it, to be honest. It was like, I was in a Catholic primary school, so I know that traditional kind of church, do you know what I mean? Which is what probably most British people have experienced, which is the Catholic or the Church of England, you know, it's calm, it's quiet. This one was all singing and dancing, somersaults, backflips, you name it. It was happening in there.
See, that's the sort of service that would convert me.
Yeah, good. All right, we like that. Well, I've got just the place for you. And I went in, I was like, whoa, okay.
Like the Blues Brothers.
Like the Blues Brothers, but on steroids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like real stuff. And I got in there and I'm like, wow, okay, this is something. They did all their thing. And I kept going every Sunday. And during their worship, like people were crying. People were talking in tongues, which is like it's a Christian thing from the Bible. I thought they were talking in African language, but they were talking in tongues, which is spiritual tongues. And I'd be like this while the worship's going on. And the visual was a bit too much for me. So I learned to close my eyes. And then I closed my eyes during the worship one service. And as I closed my eyes, I just saw a vision, like a picture of Jesus Christ on the cross, dying for us. And like a whole thing of how unselfish that act was, like just hit me. And then how selfish I'd been in my life hit me. And I just went boom, and the floodgates opened, and I cried my eyes out, you know, like. And then every time they went into worship every Sunday, I'd be crying. I'm thinking, why is this music making me cry? And what I found was that in the music is the worship of Jesus Christ, and within that music, it's not entertainment. It's something deep that all of us are connected to because of our spirits, because we are spirits that live in a body that possess a soul, which is our mind. So we can all connect spiritually, whether we know it or we don't know it. That's why on Unite the Kingdom, September the 13th, out of all the songs we sang one worship song. And that's because I remember you were on stage and Tommy was on stage and you were like, keep going, keep going. So we went off our set list and we went into a worship song that we'd normally sing at church.
Right.
And it's called Yeshua. And that was the one when we hit it and it was raining. And I looked out in the crowd and people were crying. And I got reports back that men were in the crowd with their shirts off, muscled up with tattoos everywhere, crying. Mm. And I thought, this is exactly what happened to me at the beginning. Mm. And that was an encounter with the true Spirit of God. And I carried on going to the church. That was 2011. And it's now, 2025. I've not missed a service since. I received Jesus Christ shortly after I joined the worship team. I became a pastor in 2015. Got married in 2020. Got 2 beautiful children now. And my life on the streets is long gone. But I've dedicated myself since then to try and give people the opportunity to have that encounter themselves, the one that I had that changed my life, because I can't put it down to someone preaching. I can't put it down to somebody offering a hand. I can put it down to me going into that church that day and just surrendering the fact that I can't do it on my own. You know?
What did you notice about the sober Rikki? Because if you spent all them years completely out your nut, you're actually a very different person. And it's the substance that keeps you company. Yeah. You're probably escaping loneliness of some description.
100%.
I can relate to all this, by the way. You'll probably gather.
Right.
Including the sessions where you hit the rock tunes, you're on a high, and in the come down zone, the wind down zone, you'll always go to a song that will make you cry. Yeah. And sometimes I put it on purposely because I felt like I needed to get something out. Yeah. This is not on a religious thing at all, but everything you've said I can totally and utterly relate to. Yeah. So you're in good company because I absolutely get it. And I bet lots of people watching will will get it as well. I think you've got to ask yourself the question, what are you masking? Because being up all night off your tits, it's not a natural thing to do. Every now and again, if you're celebrating something, different ball game, I'm not sort of preaching sobriety on people, but there's normally a reason. If someone says, you've got a substance problem, it's probably another problem that you've got that needs addressing. And it's not actually the substance that's the problem, it's the mask. So I get that, and I used to do the journey myself, the whole kind of spiritual journey. I needed something to
spiritual
to come out of me.
Even the drug taking is spiritual. It's spiritual. It's like, as a people, we are yearning for that spiritual connection. So when we've had 5 ecstasy tablets and 4 grams of coke or whatever, we go into a different place, like I would say that you connect into the spiritual more. I remember, you have them drug conversations with people where you're in the room and you're just talking nonsense and you're feeling this love. You just feel like you love everyone. And it's like, well, hang on a minute, where does that feeling come from? And it's because there's something spiritual even about taking the drugs. So as a people, we are born of the Spirit. Like, so according to the Bible, we Adam and Eve were created. Well, Adam was created first, and God breathed His Spirit into Adam. So we are a spirit living in a body. That's why we've got love and all of these different emotions and personality and character, because we're a spirit. That, the scientific explanation that it's all just chemicals moving around, it doesn't explain love. It doesn't explain compassion. And, the fact that we are spirits, even the drug taking is a yearning for a spiritual connection.
It makes me wonder
if
Jesus secretly got on the sesh.
Definitely not. I'll tell you why I'm sure.
How do you know that?
Well, I only know Jesus through Scripture. So that's the testimony. Just like with your podcast, it will go, and even this one we're doing today, 10 years' time, 20 years' time, someone can watch it back. All they had back then was writing. So they wrote the stories down there and the character witnesses and the reports and the testimonies. So that's how I know Jesus. And according to reports, Jesus as a man, he never sinned. So we all fall short of the glory of God, meaning that nobody's perfect. We can't be perfect. Even if we try and be perfect, we can't. Even if we try and be holy, we can't. And that's why we need Jesus Christ, who is God, the name of God, to make us perfect, to make us holy. And that's why we need to receive Jesus. And what he did on that cross by dying and rising again 3 days later, he washed away all of our sins, past, present, and future, meaning the repercussion of sin, the wages of sin, which is, according to the Bible, death. So Jesus was a man walking on the ground, and when you go to Israel, you find out that historically it's true. The Jewish people agree, the Muslim people agree, everybody agrees. It is normal history in Israel, Jesus' history of where he walked, where he lived, where he stayed, and all of the biblical stories. It's historical fact. In fact, 2,500 historical documents about Jesus exist in the world, which is more than any other historical character that has not been photographed or filmed, even more than Julius Caesar.
The Roman geezer.
The Roman geezer. It's about as much as I know about him as well.
Oh, well, he crushed his balls in a lemon squeezer. That's what we used to sing at school. Let's move into sin. Let's touch base on the elephant in the room.
It's a good one.
Well, you just mentioned sin. So you was covertly recorded. It's gone around the internet enough times for people to have seen it maybe once or twice. So I reckon if we approach that before we get into the nuts and bolts of the interview, what was that covert recording all about?
Right, so first of all, the covert recording from Al Jazeera is a lie from the pits of hell, the narrative that they presented, completely fake news. There was no money laundering. There was no illegal gold transactions or dealings, not going into it, not during it, and not after it either, which is why the Zimbabwean government put out a statement to say there was no wrongdoings, and the British government have took no interest in it. Why? Because there's nothing there. So basically, Al Jazeera are a state-funded and owned news agency, which is Qatar. So Qatar, the government, run Al Jazeera. So everything you hear from Al Jazeera is backed by the Qatari government. And if you know the Qatari government are the biggest funders of Islamism around the world. Even in the West, even in Britain and America, they're funding mosques, they're funding Islamic organizations. They're very much involved in all of that stuff. Now, the thing is with these oil-rich countries is that they're interested in gold. They're interested in precious stones because they've got too much cash and they need to do something with the cash.
In this answer, incorporate the story that they spun in case people think, what are they talking about? So what's the story they spun and what's the truth?
So they tried to frame myself and some other people as if we were involved in money laundering and as if we were involved in illegal gold dealings. So to this day, I still get messages on social media from people in Zimbabwe saying, give us back our gold. So they think that we were somehow involved in some stuff like that. But what happened is these covert recorders from Al Jazeera, they arranged multiple meetings with us under the guise of business people from Hong Kong. And they had the business card, the website, the whole shebang, everything. And they approached us and myself as wanting to build a $1 billion hotel in Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe, which would be the most expensive property in that country. It was going to be a massive deal, and it was something that was exciting for everyone. We're like, brilliant. Then what they did is within these, I think it was about 3 meetings, within these 3 meetings, they used strategic plants in terms of linguistics to try and look like we were talking about money laundering and illegal gold deals when it was never on the table.
Right.
So what was on the table was building a hotel. Then they asked about gold investment, and there was a legitimate gold investment opportunity backed by the government for small-scale mining, where you can invest money into small-scale mining and you get your return when it produces. Legitimate. But we had a conversation like this for 30 minutes to an hour, just talking normal. And then we're talking about the deal, and then he just go, oh, so wow, sounds like a good washing machine, that. And I just go, oh, yeah, it's a good washing machine, thinking he's talking about making money.
Right.
Now, when you put that in a context of the fake narrative that they did when they edited it, when they said that they were gangsters from China in the edit now, the final edit, they said they're gangsters from China, and we met with gangsters from China to discuss money laundering and fake gold thing. And then they chopped that thing of where he just threw it out of nowhere. And I agreed with him, even though there was no conversation about laundering. He just said washing machine.
So he caught you off guard?
Well, I wasn't off guard or on guard. He just mentioned something called washing machine. And we're not talking about anything to do with laundering. And I don't even know that terminology because I'm not into laundering.
And I get this as well, because when people are saying things that I don't understand, and
you
they
might just go, yeah.
Well, I do, because I don't want to knock them off track. but it's polite, and B, it just keeps the conversation flowing.
And we're talking business.
Yeah.
So I'm not thinking about anything to do with anything like that. So he just throws it out, then they chop it, and they put it in there, and that's their evidence that we're talking about money laundering. This one buzzword that he just threw in there. And then and then they made the whole program to be about gold. Yet the whole thing was talking about building a hotel. Nothing to do with gold except that one conversation about legitimate gold investment, which is legal and fine. So they wanted to frame me as a Christian leader, no doubt, because they're like I said, they're the biggest Islamist funders around the world. But my guess is that they were looking to affect the gold market in Zimbabwe, maybe the politics in Zimbabwe, and that was kind of their main goal by doing it. But completely fake news and what I would call evil journalism, where they've came in with a strategy and a plan, knowing that it's not the truth, but they're going to pull out certain things to make it look like it's the truth. And that's what I call propaganda. And Al Jazeera are masters at propaganda, just like a lot of the Islamist organizations. They're very good at propaganda. And that's why you see British people on the streets with Palestine flags every weekend, because the propaganda has convinced them that that's the right thing to do, yet they're on the wrong side of history. So that's what I would say about that whole thing. And it was messy for me in terms of like a headache, but life moves on. We're good.
Well, it's good that that's cleared up.
Yeah.
Because I never knew the truth. We obviously agreed before you come on that I'm going to have to ask you that question.
Yeah, sure.
So that was interesting for me, and it clears it up for anybody watching.
Yeah.
And they can go back and fact check whatever they like.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that they were going to link you to Christianity. So on the whole, because I'm not religious,
yeah,
but I notice when people or groups are under attack when they're under attack.
Yeah.
So as a Christian man, would you say that Christianity is under attack currently in the UK?
Well, Christianity is without doubt the most persecuted religion in the world. and it has been since its formation.
So not just the UK then, world over.
World over. And Jesus Christ, what was the big moment that we know? He was nailed to a cross and bled out on that cross, died in a most brutal fashion. And then he rose again 3 days later, defeating the grave, and was witnessed by over 5,000 people in Jerusalem in the following days. And then his disciples after that, who were carrying the early message of Christianity, were all brutally murdered as well. We carry one of them on our British flag, St. Andrew, the Scottish one, the Scottish patron saint. Right. He was one of Jesus's disciples, and he was crucified on a diagonal cross like this. That's why it's a white. Oh, I'm wearing it. Forgot. So that white diagonal one, that's St. Andrew. And he was crucified on a diagonal cross. And they said to him, denounce Jesus and you will live. If you don't denounce Jesus, and this is the Romans, we'll crucify you on a cross, just like you're Jesus. And he said, I'm not worthy to be crucified like Jesus. Please, can you put me on a diagonal?
How about that?
How about that? So even St. George is the same. He was crucified. He was a Roman soldier, and they wanted him to denounce his Christianity. He refused, so they crucified him on a cross. That's the red cross for England. And St. Patrick is the diagonal red one. He went to Ireland and converted the whole of Ireland to Christianity. But the point is that persecution for Christianity has been since day one. So it's not something that is unusual, but it's rising now more and more. And I think that's probably what prompted you to bring it up. And especially in Britain, we're seeing the street preachers getting arrested. We're seeing Christianity be almost like, well, definitely in our lifetime, in the last kind of 30 years, 40 years, it's been pushed out of schools, it's been pushed out of society, and it's been made to kind of be, to look like it's just some self-help religious choice, yet this country's founded on it, and our ancestors knew it was the truth. They knew it was the real truth that we can stand on, that we can live and die by the sword for. And the government's pushed that away. Now, the reason I believe they're doing it is because the globalists, such as Keir Starmer and all of these guys who like to go to the World Economic Forum and who like to be part of the UN and the EU and all of this stuff, they are on a strategy and a plan to globalize the whole world. We can see it. They're doing it bit by bit. That's why Zelensky, Macron, Keir Starmer, all of these guys can be on, Joe Biden, if he's able to get his words out. They're all on the same page. And they're all speaking the same language. It's almost like they've all been kind of tuned up to say the same thing. And it's because they're carrying out a globalist plan where it's based around communism, and they want all the borders dropping, and they want one government to govern the whole world. And the biggest thing that is in the way of their plans is Christianity.
Is this New World Order?
New World Order, same thing.
Okay.
And this is prophesied in the Bible in multiple places, that this is what's going to happen in the end times, that all the nations will become one. And it says that 3 people will govern, and then one person will take over from the 3, and one person will govern the world, and that person will be the Antichrist who will rise up in the end times. That's what it says in the Bible, and that's what's playing out politically that we can see. So my point is that the biggest opposition to the success of that strategy is Christianity.
Right. Because
the Christian nations are strong in their cultural identity and strong in their faith, or at least they were until they were decimated over the last 40, 50 years. And to say, right, we are gonna run the world, and they're going to have their own, it's already kind of started, like a world religion that all kind of agrees with each other. Christianity would never agree with that. You know, the Abrahamic faiths. So you've got Islam, Judaism, Christianity. So if you look at the former Pope and some of these church leaders, they've kind of lent towards the idea of an Abrahamic faith where we're all united as one. That's why you see some of the churches of England allowing Islamic scholars or imams into their church to lead Islamic prayer in church. So they're looking for a unification. So Christianity is the biggest threat to all of that, especially the Christian nation. Why are we proud of being British? Why are the Americans proud of being American? It's because we're founded on those Christian principles, and it gives us a strong sense of identity that they know they're going to have to break these countries down. Otherwise, they'll not be able to do what they need to do, which is the reason why they're keeping the borders open.
As far as a response goes to, why is Christianity under attack? That is a profound response that will get me thinking when I watch this back, and I'm sure it will the audience. And I tell you why I've probably only just noticed that Christianity is under attack. I know that I live in a Christian country. I know I used to say the Lord's Prayer at school, and it was all, assembly was all based around Christianity, and it gave you the roadmap of how to be a decent human being. But I learned the older I got that I hear more about Islam than I do Christianity. Mm-hmm. So then I'm sort of just looking at things to compare Islam to. Yeah. And then I'm seeing that, any kind of Christian revival was being suppressed, and street preachers are being dragged off the streets and given orders to, disperse. And it's clear as day now that Christianity is under attack. Yeah. But it makes me wonder, where's our king? Do you think King Charles is defending the faith?
I think he's abandoned that position of defending the faith, whether knowingly or unknowingly, because life is spiritual, and, life is made up of good and evil, and Jesus and the devil, angels and demons, and the spiritual realm is the place that we don't see with our eyes, the place that drives us to go and do that thing or go and do that thing. And I don't know if he knows he's done it or not, but he's definitely abandoned his position, and he's took that kind of... He's also somebody that's favourable to the World Economic Forum, so you can hear in his rhetoric that he's also kind of pushing the same type of angles that all of these kind of leftist world leaders and politicians are pushing, especially when it comes to Islam, where Islam is like the best friend. He allowed the iftar, the breaking of their Ramadan fast, inside of the palace. Mm. And the hall was called St. George's Hall. So it's a Christian hall in a Christian palace with a Christian monarch in a Christian country, and they're allowing Islamic practices to take place there. And the juxtaposition of the whole thing is that Islam is the religion that we can all see, we know, we've experienced, sadly, that are willing to murder, maim for their goal of world domination. I'm not saying all Muslims, I'm talking about Islam, the ideology. And yet that is the same one that is putting paper towels and cuddly things around and allowing them into our Christian palace to do things. So he's abandoned the faith. He's supposed to be, I think if you saw his Easter message last year, Easter is a very special holiday, season, celebration for Christianity. And we're a Christian nation, so it's special to us. Whether we're believing it's for bunnies, which it's not, it's still special to us. And in his Easter message, Easter's actually about the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The key moment in Christianity. You could say the key moment in human history. And he decided to include, in the second part of his speech, Islam. And he mentioned Islam and Judaism. And it's like, what? Are you the defender of the faith of Christianity? But I think he called himself the defender of all faiths, did he not? Or something like that. So he's abandoned that position. And, our prayer, and it should be everyone's prayer really, because this is our heritage, is that when William takes the crown, that he'll get back to that position of defending the faith as well.
Yeah, it's amazing to think. I mean, obviously, I've noticed this with King Charles. It's kind of blown my mind. And that's not even sort of being biased in any way, shape or form. It's just acknowledging the fact that just wouldn't happen in any other country. You would put your own religion first, and on their sacred day, you wouldn't mention any other. It would be purposefully and specifically dedicated to that specific religion. Yeah. So as an atheist, it blew my mind, because I want Christian values restored, because I think people need God more than they've ever done now, because 100%. There's a lot of people lost. And with that said, do you think that Christians and Muslims can coexist successfully?
The thing is, Christians and Muslims are human beings. So human beings of all persuasions, shapes, sizes, colours can coexist without doubt. But it's the ideologies now that are causing frictions and problems. So when we look at Islam, I've known Muslims growing up through my life who were brilliant. Like, we get on, we had great relationships, we loved each other as brothers, and had no problems. So the coexistence thing is possible. But the ideology now as we've all experienced, is a problem. The only reason I got interested in politics is because 2017, I believe it was 2017, there was 3 terror attacks in a row. The Ariana Grande bombing, where children were blown up at the concert in Manchester. The London Bridge attack, where they ran people over on London Bridge in a van. Then they hopped out the van with machetes fastened to their wrists and went into restaurants and pubs and hacked people, innocent people. And then the Westminster Bridge attack happened 1 month, beginning of 2017 in a row. It woke me up like a bolt of lightning, like an absolute alarm bell. Like, what is this? And that's how I got into politics and found Tommy Robinson and found Nigel Farage at the time was doing the European Union thing. And that's what woke me up to it. And then I looked into this thing, like, why is this happening? And what we have to understand is that whilst all Muslims are not evil or have evil intentions, the ideology of Islam is carrying the evil intention. That's why we're seeing terror attacks happening. October the 7th in Israel, the worst terror attack we've seen probably since September the 11th in America. Just awful what they did that day. And the ideology is driving it. And what we have to understand is that in the center of the Muslim population, there is the jihadists, the people that are willing to behead the infidels, that are willing to set people on fire, that are willing to blow up bombs in public areas or across the West or wherever. That's the jihadists. And if you put them all together, that's your Hamas, that's your Hezbollah. I almost says Jezbollah there for Jeremy Corbyn's party. But all of these terrorist organizations, Boko Haram, if you put them all together, you're probably going to get somewhere around 250,000 people in the world, which is still 250,000 too many. And they're causing carnage around the world. But then on the outside of them, you've got what are called the Islamists. And these are the people that want the same goal as the jihadists, but they're not willing to murder for it. They are willing to go into countries like Britain, countries like America, and exploit the democratic system to turn everything towards the favour of Islam and eventually Sharia law. But they believe in the beheadings, the chopping off of the hands for stealing things. If you leave the religion, you die. That's the Islamists. And the Islamists are not in their hundreds of thousands, they're in their millions. And they exist in our countries and probably in our political systems right now. And that's the Islamists. That's why you always see, how can this thing of Islamophobia grow so strong? How come we can't criticize or talk about this religion? Why are we shut down? Because Islamism and the Islamists have put pressure in the political areas to make it so. Then you've got one more group, which is the fundamentalists. And they will be living amongst us in the West. They'll be living in the Islamic countries, and they are quiet. They're not killing people. They're not out there trying to push the democratic systems. But what they are doing is agreeing with all of the views of Sharia law and agreeing that you should be killed if you leave the religion. But they're quietly supporting. And you see them sometimes interviewed in Speaker's Corner in London. You see them sometimes just caught on media, on interviews and different things where they sympathize with the terrorist organizations. Now, they're not in the hundreds of thousands. They're not in the millions. They're in the hundreds of millions around the world. And there were studies done where 35% of British Muslim youth believe that the terror attacks and the suicide bombers are legitimate. Justified is the word I was looking for, 35%, and they will be adults in this country at some point. So we have a massive problem with Islam that we have to be able to, as a nation, as a people, to be able to have a serious, honest, and a fearless look at. And I believe it's got to be done politically. It's got to be done where there's a full-on public inquiry into Islam, into the things that is causing these problems, because I want my children, I've got 2 beautiful daughters, I want them to grow up safe in this country. I don't want to move to another country. I love Britain. I love my country. I love what this nation's all about. And I want my children to be safe. So we have to be able to talk like adults, not be called racists, not be called Islamophobes, and have a proper inquiry into the scriptures and the culture that's causing these terror attacks and these grooming gang scandals, because it's all linked in with the scriptures and with their Prophet Muhammad and all of this other thing. So we have to be able to do that as a nation. And I think once we take back the government in terms of democratically, of course, and we're able to govern this nation, I think we can do it.
You mentioned Unite the Kingdom several times, and obviously I've seen you on the stage, and I think you're a key player in that movement. You bring a hell of a lot of joy and spiritual comfort to the people on the stage, backstage, and in the crowd. This is something that, another observation of mine, I think you're a very, very important player. I think you bring a lot of love and energy that people may not have even noticed.
Wow.
But my job, it's always been my job, this is why I do what I do, is to just observe, take in, look around. I look at people's reaction, their responses. I see action that's taken. I see how people interact. And I always notice there's big energy when you're about. And also off camera, when you talk, it's with nothing but genuine love and unity. So it fits the description of uniting the kingdom.
Amen.
And I know that there's been a bishop coalition.
Yes.
And they had a problem with the cross being displayed on the stage at Unite the Kingdom.
Yeah.
You'll know more about that than me.
Yeah. It was something that came out in the press shortly after Unite the Kingdom, which was September the 13th. And it was a bunch of Church of England bishops. And funnily enough, it was especially the ones like the Bishop of Dover, the Bishop of Croydon. And these are kind of like proper activist bishops who sit on boards of anti-racism organizations, probably very much tied in with the whole Black Lives Matter thing and all of these kind of left-wing groups.
Progressive liberal bishops.
I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah. To me, they remind me of Pharisees in the Bible, that the work of God is happening. And the move and the Spirit of God is taking place in the nation, which it is. And it's working through Unite the Kingdom and Tommy Robinson, which it is. And these bishops are so much into their politicized doctrines that they're missing the move of God. And this is what happened in the Bible. Jesus was put on the cross, yes, by the Romans, but it was the Pharisees that made it happen for him to be put on the cross.
And who were the Pharisees?
The Pharisees
were
were
infiltrators.
They were the Jewish leaders. They were the church leaders of the time.
Right.
And remember, Jesus was a Jew. So when Jesus was walking the earth, he preached in the temples, the synagogues, in the Jewish places. That's where he preached. And it was the leaders of those churches that were like, this is blasphemy. This he says he's the Son of God. He's not the Son of God, yet they were waiting for the Son of God. So it was the church leaders whose hearts were hardened to what God is doing that sent Jesus to the cross in the first place. And these bishops that I see, and what they did is they put out a statement to all of the mainstream media, and it got published in a lot of places. The Daily Mirror published it. Some of these Christian outlets published it. I think the Daily Mail published it. And it basically said, Christianity should not be in Unite the Kingdom, and the cross should not be co-opted by racism and all of this stuff. And it's a lie from the pits of hell. They're so far off the truth that it looks like their politicization of their minds, they've been caught with this woke mind virus, has gone so far that they're missing the move of God in Britain right now, because that's what's happening. Since we did that first Unite the Kingdom I attended the one in June last year, which was Westminster, next to Westminster in the square, Parliament Square. And then the second one was Trafalgar, and I was on stage then, Trafalgar. And since that day, there's at least, to my knowledge, over 1,000 people that have come to the knowledge of Jesus Christ through me on my social medias because of those events. And people are having experiences, spiritual experiences, whilst we are singing. People would email me, said, while you guys were singing Amazing Grace, a light came out the sky. I don't know what it means. Another one would say, my body was tingling. Another one would say, a cool breeze just went across me as you guys were singing. Other people are in tears. And these things are happening because this is the move of the Spirit. And these bishops remind me of those Pharisees that put Jesus on the cross, because they're missing the move of God in the moment, because God is alive. God is not a story in the pages of a book. God is alive. He's a spirit. He's moving through us, Christians. And what's happening is as this cultural awakening is taking place through Unite the Kingdom, the spiritual awakening and Christian revival is also like hand in hand with it, as if they're twins. And that's because it's a Christian nation.
Do you know something? When people normally start talking about God, I'll be honest, I switch off. You've got a very good knack of when you talk about God, I switch on.
Amen.
So take that as a massive compliment because I find it tremendously interesting to the point I'm looking forward to watching this back. Now, you mentioned the word racism.
Yes.
Now, the funny thing is, I don't think I've ever seen you with a white person. Even today, you've come...
You're going to send the far-right guys into a meltdown here.
Well, here's the thing. So where does the racism come? And how come I've never seen you with a white person? You normally, your band's are full of black members.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Middlesbrough. So, council estates. I grew up on the roughest of council estates. For people out there that know Middlesbrough, I grew up in Brambles Farm and Netherfields, and they were council estates, and they were the places. So basically 99% ethnically white where I grew up. That's how it's always been. But since I got saved in the church that I got saved in that I told you the story about earlier, the majority of people in that church were originally from Africa. And actually the majority of them were from the country of Zimbabwe. So that's where I came into the church. And what's happened with this whole kind of mass immigration movement, it's not something I agree with in terms of mass immigration. The borders need to be closed quickly. We need to do the mass deportations without doubt. But what it has done, and this is a biblical scripture, it says that all things work for the good of those that love the Lord. So whilst this was not a good thing to have all the borders open, and it was a plan of the globalists in order to dilute our nations, this is my belief, is that they're keeping the borders open now, and they've kept them open this long to dilute our Christian nations so that it becomes easier to control, easier to manipulate, and easier to roll out this one world order plan that they've got. Now, what the great thing is that happened in all of that evil was that Christians came from Africa and they came into Britain and they brought Christianity that is on fire, not the Christianity that has deserted us as a people. And these bishops that called us out that day, they are part of that Christianity that deserted us. They were supposed to lead us to Christ and they led us away from Christ. That's the truth. Because we after World War II, everyone was in church. And then all of a sudden, by the time we were born in the 70s and the 80s, everyone's left church. So that was the failings of them guys that have the gall and just I can't believe they have the bravery to criticize us when we are connecting with people on a mass scale.
I can't believe anybody could call you racist.
Yeah. So that was my point. Yeah. So that's what the church that I got saved in, with Africans. And I'd never been with people from Africa. I'd never really hung out with people of a ethnicity that's black. Never really on a deep level. A little bit in university and stuff, but I came up in that church. They looked after me. They raised me from being a guy who was full of drugs and alcohol to being somebody who had a serious relationship with Jesus Christ. And then my church is Spirit Embassy, which is, I call it the Church of Britain. They want to call themselves the Church of England, but we are the Church of Britain. And it's really kind of balanced out with all sorts of ethnicities, including white British, African, Fiji. A lot of the ex-soldiers are in our church. You know, the guys that come and serve in the British Army, they're in our church. And that's why you'll see I just move around with anyone. I don't care. For me, ethnicity is the wrong line for us to be fighting on. I know that the anti-white hate and the anti-white bias has been happening, and it annoys all of us to the core because it's racism. And I know that the demographic change when it comes to ethnicity and race is a highlight and a fruit and an example of just how much they've opened the borders and decimated our culture. I get that, and I agree. But for us to fight on the lines of ethnicity and race is wrong. There's nowhere in the Bible that mentions race or ethnicity. In fact, God created man and woman in his image, meaning that we are created in the image of God. If you want to know what God looks like, Liam, when you look in the mirror in the morning, that's what God looks like. We're created in his image.
That sounds a bit like narcissism.
That's a fact. So that's what separates us from the animals and all of the rest of God's wonderful creation. It's why we're different. It's why our creative power is so amazing and separates us from everybody else. It's why we have this amazing power to speak things, and moods change and atmospheres change. And this is why Tommy Robinson is so popular, because he's able to communicate something and it makes people feel a certain way. And that's because we're created in the image of God. And, you know, in the book of Genesis, chapter 11, is the point where God divided the people. And the reason why is because the people grew to such a strength that they started building a tower. In the Bible, it's called the Tower of Babel. And they were building it to reach heaven. And God said, if we don't separate these people, then they're going to achieve it and they're going to try and be like me, God. So he separated the people, give them all different languages and spread them across the world. That's the biblical story of how people got spread across the world with different languages. But even in that, there's no mention of race. There's no mention of ethnicity. It was geographical location and language, which is culture. So to fight on the ethnic and racial lines is stupidity.
And I know you're going to come under attack from the far right now.
I already am.
We now know where we are in the food chain. We're hated by the left because they think we're racist, but the actual racists hate us because we're not racist.
Yes.
It's like, fucking hell, both sides.
But that's the best good place to be.
Yeah, it's the only place to be.
Yeah, only place.
Like, we're judging people on their character and their spirit.
Correct.
Like, I don't care what someone's colour is. Jesus. Excuse me.
No. Say his name, brother.
He'd love that. But it does want to make me change my pronoun badge to God, him, her.
Let's do it.
Now, there's a lot of people, and I think this is a real good thing. It's a positive, but it seems to be a bit dangerous. I think we all need to become a little bit politically active.
Yeah.
Even if it's a mini activist, even if it's around your dinner table, sort of challenge some silly talk.
Yeah.
It's like we're trying to save the country here.
Yeah.
We're trying to improve the future, the quality of life.
Yes.
Just don't be afraid to speak, as long as you're not personally insulting somebody. If you're challenging an idea, no problem. Mm-hmm. But we've recently seen 𝐶 𝐾𝐿, an activist who does challenge ideas and engages in debate, which was his greatest strength, if you ask me, and his kindest quality. Yeah. But he got executed for that.
Yeah.
How do you think we avoid a 𝐶 𝐾𝐿 incident in the UK?
Well, in the UK, we have to get to a point where, first of all, we've got to take government. We have to take government. And I think on September the 13th, this is the thing that scared them the most when it comes to the leftists, the globalists, the communists, the Islamists. They were scared the most because the sheer numbers of Unite the Kingdom at September the 13th would have sent a message to all of these people that understand politics that this is the future of Britain, that the government in the future is going to come from this pool of people with this way of thinking, which is a conservative mindset that wants to stand as a sovereign nation, that wants to stand on our Christian values, and we are going to take government. And for me, Advance UK is that vehicle. Tommy Robinson agrees with me. Elon Musk agrees with me. And maybe even you agree with me, Liam. I don't know.
I have to be very careful on my show.
You're neutral like that.
Well, not that I give a flying fuck, but I get it. See, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, and you're damned if you're somewhere in the middle.
I get it. No, I get it.
For me, what I'm doing is, this is why I love interviewing people, because each time I interview somebody, I'm picking a new brain and I'm getting a new perspective and I'm learning and I'm growing.
Yeah, which is great.
So for me, I've got my eye on everyone and everything.
Yeah.
And I haven't quite made my mind up where I'm going to put my chips.
Sure.
And that's the most honest answer that I can give.
Which is good.
At the moment, I'm politically homeless.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are steering from reform to advance. And I'm all for it because Farage has got a lot to answer for. And I said this in a previous podcast, because I've witnessed him lie with my own eyes. I have to remember that.
Yeah.
And it's the same as if your wife cheats on you. You can't forget that.
Yeah, you can forgive.
You can move forward, and if they apologise and you accept it and you can make sense of it, then okay, we work together again.
Yeah.
So I do need to see accountability in government.
For sure.
So my mind's like a parachute, works better when it's open, and I've got my eyes, my mind open.
I get it.
And for me personally, I've got a little bit of time to sit back and watch. Some may say we're running out of time, which I do believe, but I'm happy to platform anybody, and I'm happy for anybody to promote their political party.
Yeah. Well, I don't care about party politics. I care about my country. I care about my children and the future of this nation. And that's the only reason I'm involved in party politics. And I just see Advance UK having the artillery to be able to do it. And we do need to take Parliament. And Tommy Robinson said the same thing. He said that's why he made Advance UK to kind of be a political wing almost of the Unite the Kingdom movement, to say, right, we've won the cultural battle in terms of, you saw the numbers on September 13th. The next one will be even bigger, maybe double the size, but we need to be able to take Westminster. Otherwise, we can't do what we need to do. And I think Advance UK is the thing that can do it. But to answer the question and why I got into that was that we've got to take that Parliament. We've got to change policy. We've got to change the direction of this nation through policy, and certainly through the education system. We need to counter this radical left communist ideology that is best friends with this Islamist ideology. And the reason why they both unite is because they have a common cause, and that common cause is world domination. And they somehow feel like they can do it together, the far left communists and Islam. And I found this on a video. Tommy Robinson shared a video actually, and I watched it about the October the 7th. And I watched that video, and it showed me some history that I didn't know. And that is that the Islamists of today, all of these terror groups and these Islamists that are pushing Islam around the world, are actually, their heritage of that is connected to Nazism. I had no idea. So World War II ended, and Nazi seniors from the actual Adolf Hitler's Nazi group moved permanently to the Middle East, converted to Islam, and taught the Muslims how to do anti-Jew propaganda. That's why this thing can happen, this October the 7th terror attack, which was brutal. Children murdered, babies murdered, mothers murdered, the raping of innocent people, the slaughter of anybody, no matter what age, what they didn't care. It was one of the most evil acts I've ever seen.
Yeah, they didn't discriminate.
They didn't discriminate at all. And it was just pure evil, and people think it's just Hamas, yet the Palestinian citizens were involved in that. They crossed the border too. They took weapons too. And even 8 people who are connected to the UN organization that operates in Palestine were involved in it. Killing people. And for them to be able to switch the whole global narrative to the problem is the Jews shows you that they're masters at this propaganda. And I didn't know this, but now I know, and I'm glad I can say it here. They learned it from the Nazis.
I've never been able to work it out. I mean, it could be naive, lack of information.
Yeah, just information.
I'm by far any kind of historian.
Yeah.
I just know what's happening here and now, and what's done has been done, and the only way we can move forward is if we draw a line in the sand and say we cannot cling on to grudges and keep killing each other.
We can't.
It's fucking insane.
Yeah.
But people love to cling on to anything they can to win the argument, even if it's from like thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
For me, I'm all about the here and now. I'm kind of glad that I'm not a historian, because it's like, okay, I don't care what led us to this moment.
What are we doing now?
This is the moment where we need to change.
Yeah.
And you mentioned communism several times. So what's your take on digital ID? Because I think that's the start of communism. 100%.
It's part of this globalist thing. And when we say globalist, it's just communism. So the strategy that they're using, the tactics, it's all coming from Karl Marx, and it's coming from the communist playbook. And they're subjugating our nations, demoralizing our nations to try and get the national culture to be something that's hated. We're seeing it now with the flags. They're doing everything they can to try and say that these flags that are flying around the country are somehow linked to racism. It's just nonsense. So the digital IDs are part of it. And again, the digital IDs are prophesied in the Bible. In the book of Revelation, chapter 11, it says you will not buy anything except through the mark of the beast, which will be in your hand or it will be in your forehead. Now, the digital ID is not the mark of the beast, but it can be linked along that prophecy to where we will not be able to buy or sell without this digital ID eventually. So it's something that is nonsensical in terms of, if you want to look at it intellectually, like, why would we need a digital ID? And Starmer's trying to use the reason it's to stop the illegals. And I just think, come on, man, you might be able to pull a few fast ones, but that one is a bit too far to stop illegals. So So if we are all controlled by digital ID, then the illegals are going to stop. How? That they need digital ID to work. Well, they need a national insurance number to work now, and they're still working. So what's going to change? Nothing. The only reason they want to roll it out is they want to control us. And that digital ID, they'll be able to track and trace us wherever they want. They'll be able to know where we are, what we're doing, what we've just done, where we've been, and that is the real goal. Communism is the real fascism, meaning that these far left guys and the Islamists are the real fascists of today. They always call us fascists. They call us fascists, racists. So, and this is also in the Bible, is that this season, which is the end times, is a time of deception where good will be painted to be evil and evil will be painted to be good. And that's exactly what's going on right now. So these guys are the real fascists. This digital ID thing is fascism completely, which is that they want to control the population. Less liberty, more control. Christianity is more liberty, less control. Even God, when he created man, he gave us the choice. Worship me or don't worship me. Believe in me or don't believe in me. It's the ultimate liberty. So we grew up in a Christian nation with liberties, and these fascists, which are devil-inspired Satanists, want to take them liberties away, and digital ID is one more path on taking our liberties away.
Yeah, I mean, I totally and utterly agree. I know exactly where that could lead to. A whole score system of how well-behaved you are, that will end in what privileges you do and don't get, if you end up in the gulag or not, if you can travel to X, Y or Z or not.
They tried it out during the COVID, didn't they?
That was the IQ test world over. This is not good.
Yeah, it's not.
And I know you've got a lot of people on the left saying, well, they track us on our phones and they track us here and there, and we've got NI numbers and driver's license and passports. What's the difference? It's a big difference.
It's huge.
This is like centralised data.
Yes.
For starters, let's imagine some wanker's got that on their laptop and they leave it open on the train.
Yeah, real-time data.
People are human beings. A human error. That entire data system could leak. Cyber attacks, and then, I mean, this is really, really bad.
It's a mess.
But before I ask you the final question, where can anybody watching or listening find you? What platforms? And I'll put all your links in the description, but just so they can hear it as well.
Thank you, bro. So all social medias, at real Rikki Doolan, like REAL, Rikki, RIKKI, Doolan, DOOLAN, at real Rikki Doolan. I've got my YouTube channel there. I go live on my YouTube every night. We just talk about politics. We talk about faith. We pray on there. I've prayed for Tommy many times on there, and people should join us on them lives. They're good spots.
Do you think you could say a prayer that Liam Tuff's hair grows back?
No problem.
Thank you, mate.
We'll do it.
I'll be keeping an eye out.
These miracles work,
on my hair.
If you wake up in the morning, you've got a full bush.
I'm in. If I wake up in the morning because you've said a prayer for my hair and I've got a full bush, then do you remember O.J. Simpson in Naked Gun, where his afro's so big he couldn't walk through the door? If I wake up tomorrow like that, I'm converting to God. But I'm going to put all of Ricky's links in the description. And before I ask him the final question, please do like and subscribe to the channel, because these conversations are great, even if you're religious or you're not. They're all eye-opening and, for me, incredible. And I've really, really enjoyed today. Before I ask you the final question, I'll just say I sit opposite enough people to know when I'm sitting opposite a good man. And that man is you. And I've thoroughly enjoyed today. But you finish this. Thank you, brother. You finish this interview, not me. Anything you want to say, what would be your final message to the masses?
Yeah, I would just say, let's be united. The message of Unite the Kingdom is very important, that we are united. It's not along the lines, we don't want to be divided along the lines of race or even political opinion. We should be able to be united as a people, as human beings. And the biggest uniting force is the heritage of this country, which is Jesus Christ, Christianity. The power is in Christianity. Our values, our morals, our principles, who we are as a people all comes from Christianity. And whether you're giving your life to Jesus or not, we can all agree that this nation is better off standing on our values and standing on our heritage and moving forward as a united nation.
Mate, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. It's give me some right, nice energy.
That's good, man.
So I appreciate you coming on. I know you've driven a long, long way to come here. I think you're going to be well received by my audience, and I'm sure they'll be tuning into your lives, and we'll be holding you to account. You said you're going to pray that my hair grows back,
Yes.
so we'll all be keeping an eye
It'll
on
be
you.
on my live. I will chop it and send it to you.
Rikki, get it off, bro.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you, mate.
Appreciate it, man.
Cheers, man.
Thanks, bro.